We are in a 24/7 social media-driven crazy world right now. And tell me, trust me, I know firsthand. It used to be, I would go into the paper. You know, back in the day when we got our news delivered on dead trees, I would go into the paper and I would sit down and prop my feet up and wait for my muse to come sauntering in whenever she would show up, afternoon usually, and I would sit down, I'd start drawing a cartoon, and it was, and you would see it the next day. That world doesn't exist anymore. Well, see, we live in this great world, and really, honestly, social media has changed it because people want their information when they want it, and that is now. So that really adds a little bit of complexity for us content creators because we can no longer wait for when inspiration strikes. We have to go out and strike inspiration right between the eyes. A long time ago, I decided I was going to become a cartooning warrior. Boy, that sounds fun, doesn't it? And today, I'm going to tell you a little bit, some of the tricks that I do every single day to be able to do what I do. Somebody once asked me, what's it like to be creative? Well, describing creativity is like a fish describing water. You don't really notice it until you're on the dock gasping for breath and it's not there. And that's where I am a lot of times. I'm like, oh, please, I can't think of my idea. And people say, well, Marshall, seriously, where do you get your ideas from? And I'm like, man, I got a crack comic team up at the state capitol that writes my gags for me every single day, And truthfully, that is the truth, but it's kind of a cop-out, too, because it's kind of an easy way to describe what I do for a living. Because really, creativity for me is a lot like running, if that makes sense. Okay, y'all remember 7th grade, okay? I'm going to take you back. Remember when the PE coach said, hey, y'all, go run a mile, and you'd barf along? Hey, that was me. I was like the asthmatic kid with the knee socks up to here going, that was me. And about a month from now, or a month and a half, I'll be running a marathon. Yeah, I know. Well, it won't be pretty, okay? Don't give me too much love there. Just think Clydesdale, okay? Don't think racehorse, think Clydesdale. Seriously, though, I'm going to attack my marathon the same way that I attack my creativity every day, through training, through proper exercise, through all, good diet and everything else. See, we live in this world. It's kind of like this circle right here. Everything is in there, right? You got your career, your cat videos, your kids, your mortgage, and I'm not trying to say cat videos are above my kids in case they're watching this right now. I don't want them to cry any more than they already do because I'm their dad. But you have all the existence that we live in. That is our conscious mind. If you'll notice, there's a little barrier around it. So like, for instance, if I step outside of this red dot, I will be hit by a laser and vaporized. But there's a barrier there. On the other side of that barrier are awesome ideas. And sometimes that stuff in the middle bleeds into the awesome idea area. But if you're really doing what you need to do, you can punch through that wall, grab an idea, and bring it back. But the trick is doing it on command. That's the hard part. And I'll be honest with you, I do have a secret weapon that allows me to do that, and I will share you. But I can tell you that sometimes that barrier is like Fort Knox. It's hard to break through. Now, the only person who ever broke into Fort Knox was Goldfinger, right? So there you go. That's my homage to that. And I did say pea galore because this is a family-friendly show. You have to be able to punch through that wall and bring something back. And I'll be honest with you, my secret weapon is usually adrenaline. That is when I can come up with my best ideas. This was the hardest cartoon I've ever had to draw in my whole life. And let me set the stage for you because you remember it just as well as I do. My wife and I were in the kitchen. We were watching the little tiny television we have in our kitchen. We had a newborn son. We were arguing about something trivial and stupid as we want to do. And I saw smoke pouring out of the World Trade Center. And I knew I was going to have to come up with a cartoon idea, but I didn't want to leave my family. I drove into work. The second tower had fallen. And I looked up at the TV and I said, good God, give me an idea, please, anything. And I saw the Statue of Liberty standing proudly before the smoke, and drew that cartoon in about 30 minutes. I had so much adrenaline, if I could have bottled it, I probably could have given it to half the nation at that point, but it was one of my best cartoons. August 29, 2005 in Mississippi is a day that most of us will never forget. That was the day that Katrina came a-calling and wreaked havoc all the way from the coast all the way to the Tennessee border. And I tell you, we had a forest for the trees problem here in Mississippi, here in Jackson particularly, because we couldn't see the forest because the trees had fallen on our power lines. So we had no idea what was going on. And when we saw those first images of the coast, we didn't recognize anything. There was nothing. The casinos were on land. It was like, what was going on? And the only thing that I recognized when that helicopter flew down that beach was the Biloxi Lighthouse. And I had so much adrenaline at that point that was the cartoon that I drew. I drew that in about 30 minutes. This is probably one of the most personal cartoons in my life. Many of you may have remembered the Election Men series. This was drawn about 8 hours after my cancer surgery. Do you think I was in the mood to draw a cartoon at that moment? No. And some people might say it was the painkillers where I got the idea, and there might be some truth to that, but that's not really the point of this talk. But the point was, I had a lot of adrenaline, and I was able to come up with that. And you're probably thinking, well, Marshall, how do you come up with that adrenaline? And that's very important, because being able to get yourself ramped up on command is important. This cartoon, we talk about timeliness, and we talk about how important it is with social media. Y'all remember Downton Abbey when, was it Matthew got run over and killed? Well, I was in the other room with my son watching a James Bond movie because we believe in violence in my house. I grew up on Roadrunner cartoons, okay? And I hear my wife cussing in the other room, and she never cusses unless she drives in Atlanta. And so I ran in there. Don't worry, she just heard it. I have a chip right here. But I went running in the other room, and sure enough, there he was dead on the ground. Millions of Americans were crying out. And I sat down and drew that cartoon and posted it on Facebook, and within 24 hours, it had been shared over 100,000 times. Amazing, because it was timely, because I got the adrenaline and the idea came to me at that moment when everybody was talking about it. That was what was important. In fact, Ann Rice put it on her page, and George Takei put it on his. I made Sulu's page. There you go. That was pretty awesome. See this guy right here? This is not Flava Flav after a hard night partying, okay? This right here is how I used to get my adrenaline, all right? This was my junkie. This was my dealer. This is procrastination. How many of you have got an intimate relationship with procrastination? I see a lot of hands in that audience. See this right here? This is the face of it right here. I even have a quote in my yearbook about procrastination, which I turned in 2 weeks too late. That's how bad I procrastinate. But you understand exactly why you do it. It gives you that adrenaline because you've got a deadline that you're facing and you're behind. But the problem is about it, and I think the thing that a lot of people forget, you don't do your best work when you've got 3 hours to finish your term paper and it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I hate to break it to you. It's not going to be Shakespeare, all right? You've got to figure out another way. Attack your project by creating small deadlines to plan your day. That's how I do it, and I'll tell you why. See, how many of you do the traditional to-do list? It doesn't work for me. I'll tell you why. Because I do a lot of different things every day. I do radio, television, books, speaking, cartoons, you name it. I've got deadlines, social media. I've got to hit these things all day long. If I wrote everything down on a list of what I got to do, I'd be hyperventilating and in a fetal position on the floor. Because that creates stress. And I'm not talking about the kind of stress that creates adrenaline. I'm talking about long-term, scares the heck out of you, causes heart disease kind of stress. Because you start realizing, oh my gosh, I have all this stuff to do. So what I do is I literally am like air traffic control mode every morning. I sit down and plan out when I'm going to do stuff. And I create tiny little deadlines for myself that are almost like procrastination. A lot of times I'll wait till 9 o'clock to start my blog post. Or maybe I might wait till 9:05 just for the old days. But the bottom line is, it creates not only an incentive to get it done, but a huge degree of satisfaction when you get each thing done off the list. It's kind of like scratching off the to-do list, but you don't have the stress of thinking, when am I going to get all this stuff done? Because the old Marshall would wait until 5 o'clock to try to do everything on that list, and it would come out as just junk. So, which explains a lot of my cartoons. The most dangerous place in the world is the comfort zone, okay? I can tell you this firsthand. I would rather be in a blasting zone than a comfort zone. I have been there. After I had cancer, I craved security. Let me tell you firsthand, security is a mirage. I'm in the newspaper business, okay? A lot of people in the newspaper business thought it was going to last forever. Guess what? It didn't. and it changed, and it changes rapidly. Now everything's changing about every 35 seconds. The only security you truly can have is getting out there and changing as fast as you can and doing as much work. Now, let's take a quick break from my talk and do the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the cup that holds my caffeinated beverage and to the drink for which it contains one container full of coffee, indispensable with energy and caffeine for me. I love me some caffeine, okay? I'm sorry. I get up at 4 every day, so I'm usually a caffeine junkie, I have to admit. Attack fear with hope. One of the biggest killers of creativity is fear, and I can tell you that firsthand. My own skin tried to kill me. I'm a malignant melanoma survivor, so I know a little bit about fear, because melanoma is like that crack in your windshield. If you don't catch it quick, it's going to take it out your windshield or take out your life. And I'm very fortunate. 3 doctors missed mine. And the one who did a great job, and I've had 14 years on this planet thanks to it and 3 sons. It's been a great thing. H stands for humor. Learn to laugh at the things that drive you crazy in your life. Okay, that's pretty much easy for a cartoonist to say, but it's something we all need to think about, because you know what? You can watch the nightly news every night, and you need those products they advertise in between the commercials. There is a lot of stuff that will cause gastric reflux disease on there, okay? Learn to laugh. And one example for me was right after my surgery, my family decided we needed to have a bonding family vacation. Guess where we went? Destin. All right? I had skin cancer. We went to the beach. We should have gone to a cave, all right? I told my dad, I was like, you want to shoot me, kill me, buy a gun. It's a lot quicker. But anyway, they're all out playing. I'm in watching Dr. Phil. So about 6 o'clock rolls around. I take off my shirt, go running in the water, and there's a lady and 2 little girls, and they start staring at me. I'm not used to women staring at me. It's never happened in my life, and I felt a little uncomfortable. And I pointed at my scar, which is about that long on my back, and she said, Marshall, and she didn't know my name. She said, yeah, and I said, yes, I know. It's shark attack, and it happened right where your little girls are swimming. She grabbed her girls and ran out of the water. My wife was over there going, you're going to hell, you're going to hell, you're going to hell. I had 2 choices. I could have been offended, or I could have made a joke. And I've been telling that joke for 14 years, and I think there's a connection. I really do. Opportunity to serve, obviously. If you're afraid, find a way to help somebody else walking through your journey. For us, and a friend of mine named Keith Warren, we did Run from the Sun for 10 years, and we screened thousands of people for melanoma. And we gave other people the same chance that I had. That right there, that makes fear shrink pretty darn fast. Physical fitness, that makes sense, okay? Mind-body connection, we hear about it all the time. But you know what? If your body's in good shape, your brain can do a lot more and help you on the creativity side. That's me working out. I'm pretty handsome, aren't I? Educate yourself about your situation. That's kind of a no-brainer. But for instance, with me, when I first time I had a melanoma, it was a melanoma in situ. And I thought in situ meant by coffin. But it means in place, and it was 100% curable. But because I didn't know, it created stress, and that right there will kill creativity. It's not what happens to you, it's how you respond to it. And that is something that is very, very important in this world of change that we have. For instance, you fall down, it doesn't matter that you fell down. What matters is how you get back up. And I've gotten a lot of experience. Learning to fail is one of the most important skill sets a creative person needs to learn to do. And I'm not saying just fail intentionally, because I'm pretty good at that. I did that in college. But the point is, what you do is you learn from every failure, and you don't make that mistake twice. It's huge. That's me right there graduating from college, the University of Tennessee. I went to go work, not at the New York Times. I went to work at Pope High School as a high school janitor. It was one of my greatest moments. And I reacted to it like it was a failure. And guess what? I threw a pity party for 6 months. How many of you thrown a pity party? Yeah, that's what I thought. How many people do you think enjoy you throwing a pity party? None. But mine was so awesome I served snacks. That's how good it was. I went to church one Sunday. The preacher was talking about the parable of the talents, and I realized I was a servant who was bearing his talent. And I got busy the next Monday, and I started using this gift I'd been given. I started drawing pictures of the teachers and husbands and caricatures, making money that way, and T-shirts for the cross-country team. And next thing you know, doors started opening up. I was even drawing on the walls and cleaning it off because I was a janitor and I could do that. Next thing you know, one of the teachers said, hey, I got a friend that works in a newspaper. How would you like to have a job? I said, sure, that'd be great. Next thing you know, I met another lady who said, my daughter just broke up with her boyfriend. How would you like to go out with her? And I thought, wow, your standards for your daughter are pretty low. That's okay. But you know what? She had the most beautiful blue eyes I'd ever seen. And because of that worst moment in my life, I had the 4 best moment because I got to see those eyes walk down the aisle. and I got to see my 3 boys born with the same eyes. And that is awesome. Using your talent leads to more talents. A few years ago, my life changed. I got made part-time, and it opened up a huge block of time for me every day. I started a radio show. I started doing television. I started doing speaking. I started doing books, things that I never knew I could do. But because I'd fallen down, it created an opportunity. It's very important for you to remember to fail. You've got to be a good warrior and remember to keep fighting no matter what. Attack a project by creating small deadlines to plan your day. That's so important. The most dangerous place is your comfort zone. You got to get out of it. Don't sit there. It's so tempting. And don't confuse rest for comfort zone, because there's a big difference. Attack fear with hope, humor, opportunity to serve, physical well-being, and education. Surround yourself with other creative warriors. We live in Mississippi. One of the beautiful things that I love about living here is one minute I'm talking to Bruce Livingston, the next minute I'm interviewing Mac McAnally. I might see Wyatt Waters, Bill Dunlap. That is the beauty of us living here, is there are not 6 degrees of separation, and I have the right number of fingers up because I practiced this for 2 weeks. We have 2, and that is awesome. It's not what happens to you, it's how you respond to it. That is too important, and for creative people, you cannot get your lip out and give up whenever you face rejection. I actually have a stack of rejection letters this high. When I was 25 years old, I tried to become syndicated, and I was rejected dozens of times, and suddenly they started handwriting the rejection letters, and then one day I went from being a janitor to the next year I was in the New York Times. That's huge. Use your talent, and that leads to more talent. We live in a wonderfully creative place, but you have to realize that things are changing almost on a daily and hourly basis. And you know what? You can't be afraid to fail. You have to learn how to embrace it and how to attack it full speed. I'm blessed. I've done over 7,000 cartoons since I've been in Mississippi, and this place has been very good to me and my family. But to be honest with you, I am more excited about the future than anything I've ever done in the past, because you know what? It can't be anything but awesome. Thank you very much, and God bless.